The idea of a creature larger than a gorilla with an odor like a skunk might seem far-fetched.
From the beginning of his time on Earth, man has always been fascinated by monsters, real or imagined.
The outside world is very judgmental about these things, with many people not believing in them whatsoever.
Cloaked in secrecy, they show up without warning, state their business, then vanish as quickly as they appear.
They only land in isolated places. They have taken people, I believe. They do have technology.
But the idea is if enough people focus on something, like thousands and thousands of people focus their mind on something and the image, in a very strange way, they can kind of create a real-world version of the fictional entity.
Fact, fantasy, and history have come together to tease the imagination.
That the truth will out, and that no one lie can live forever.
Welcome to SuperNRML.
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was, just that it ran across the yard.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Dio!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Okay.
You're listening to Sasquatch Experience, the podcast. The classic Bigfoot podcast has returned with Sean Forker and Henry May. The show starts now. Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm a familiar voice, Sean, the Fork Chop Forker, here as we bring you SuperNRML Season 2 premiere and our spin-off, Sasquatch Experience. Sasquatch Experience has been around for a very long time, and it's going to be my privilege tonight to introduce our co-hosts, our special host team for this evening, as we're going to dive in and talk about where we've been, what we've been up to, and some Sasquatchy topics, guys. So one at a time, I'll introduce you, and we'll get this ball rolling. Boy, that was a tongue twister for some reason. And our first up to bat, probably my longest-running co-host in the history of ForkerMEDIA, my good friend, your friend, the walking encyclopedia of Sasquatchery himself, Mr. Henry May. Henry, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well, and I'm very excited to be back.
10 years, my friend.
Really cool.
10 years since we've done a show together.
Yes.
Can you believe that?
Unbelievable.
10 years ago, I was still a kid. So we've been doing this a long time, and I'm glad to have you back. Every year or so, I would send Henry a message, and the message would be, "Hey, Henry, you ready to do this?" And then we'd talk about it. We never get around to it. And I felt personally that with all these shows out lately, and, there is a need to bring back what we were doing, which was information and entertainment. And though our shows might not have been the best in audio quality, I think we always brought a heart and a reasoning to the topic, and I'm glad to be able to be back here with you, Henry, at the broadcast booth, bringing the Sasquatch back to the masses.
There you go. Absolutely. Very fun.
And, of course, my next guest, you guys hear him each and every week with me on SuperNRML. Well, they were till the holiday break. My friend and your friend, Mr. Vance. Nesbitt. Vance, how you doing?
I'm good. Hello, gentlemen. This is really an honor to partake in this this whole project altogether. Having the familiarity and listening to Sasquatch Experience and Forker, this is your birthplace for doing this kind of thing. And now I'm actually getting to participate in it. it's huge privilege for me personally, because all these topics, but Sasquatchery to all things paranormal, I'm there. Sign me up, I'm there. And so I find this as an extreme privilege. So thank you so much for the consideration and bringing me into the folds of this whole thing. And of course, Henry, this is our first time that we're doing something together. So talk about pretty fun and interesting.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool to be on with you guys.
This is great. And Vance, you're right. It is your pleasure to be here, and a privilege. I'm kidding. I'm really kidding.
Well, it took about 3 weeks to get, all the certification papers in the mail and the clearance. And then I had some, agents come over, interviewed me for all of this. So yeah, I've been vetted. Clearly I have been vetted by you. So it is a privilege that, yeah, I get it.
We made the big time finally. You made the big time. And of course, I'd be leaving someone out, and this person is a true friend of mine, a good gent. He did the artwork for the show, but this is not the first time he and I have sat down to work together on a project. We used to do a show together called The Crypto Chronicles, and then he's ventured off and done some of his own material, and of course he's my friend, Mr. Les Sinkovich. Les, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good, Sean. How about you? How about the rest of you gentlemen? You guys doing good?
Oh, we're
Absolutely.
I'm breathing.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's all you could ask for, right? This day and age, as long as you're breathing, that's a good thing. And as Vance had said, I'm also honored to be on with you guys. I remember listening to Sasquatch Experience years ago, and it actually, I had talked to you earlier, Sean, and it was really one of the inspirations that got me and my friend Chad, who co-hosts our show, The Explorer Seekers of the Truth. It really inspired me to want to delve into the whole podcasting and so on and so forth. So I thoroughly enjoyed the archived shows of the Sasquatch Experience. You guys are a trip. The comedic bond you guys have and friendship was clear. And what I loved most about it was not only did you guys provide good content, your guests were phenomenal, and like I said before, your commentary between each other, you guys, you were great. And there are a lot of great shows out there now, don't get me wrong, but you guys always had a special place in my heart. I love the show, and I'm so glad that you guys are back.
Well, we appreciate that.
Well, if it's a special place in your heart, don't blame any heart attacks on us, okay?
No, I'll make sure I sign that off in the waivers.
Okay, thank you.
We're tight about those legal matters, and well, we may need them after this show. Who knows? Who knows where we're going to end up going? And we did have some topics we brought up tonight because it's not a show unless we prepare a little bit. And just to throw some things out there, I listened to the latest episode of Monsteropolis with Seth Breedlove and Mark Matsky, and their last episode was the State of the Union on Bigfoot, right? Or the title's there. I'm probably messing it up, as I'm prone to do. But it was a really good episode. I encourage everybody to go listen to it. We do have friends that are in this field, and we often promote things, and sometimes we promote them because they are our friends. But this show was really important, and I think you need to go listen to it and spend some time because there's some real solid points they bring up. We're going to touch on them a little bit, probably throughout the show, not to be derivative, but, use it back as a resource. And, of course, over the last few days, can I just say thank you to everybody out there in quote-unquote listener land. Thank you. For Henry and I and Les and Vance, it's humbling to watch just, go from no followers to over 130 now in less than 24 hours.
In 2 days.
Yeah, that means a lot to me because I was talking to Henry and I'm like, I don't know if anybody's actually going to give a damn anymore, but people do, and it means a lot to us because at the end of the day, this has never been about us, right? We're just voices to leave an imprint on the history of Bigfoot and Bigfoot research. This is about the content and the subject matter that 10 years ago to today, Henry, when we did our last broadcast 10 years ago to the day, we're no closer to solving this mystery. We're not even close.
Nope.
And that's when you think about that. So we've done this show. This will be a total of a 15-year span, right? We started in 05, 06, and here we are in the year 2020, and we're no closer now than we were in 2005. To me, that's mind-boggling. I don't know how we ended up in the same place.
It is amazing.
Well, it's mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, Henry, but the evidence keeps coming in, and that's the thing. It's not like this whole discussion is about one event that happened a long time ago, and it's just not solved. No, the evidence just keeps rolling on in, and yet we're no closer to an answer. That's what the phenomenal part is, in my opinion, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could even say the evidence is rolling in, though. It's just repeat. Hair samples, which are few and far between, footprint castings, and we got our experts on those. But since Patterson film, Freeman footage, what's been the latest best piece of video evidence or photographic evidence of Bigfoot? Newsflash, there hasn't been. Technology has gotten better. Dramatically better. And we can make an argument, guys. Let me take that back. There were some pretty good thermal footage brought in, correct? Some good thermals. But at the end of the day, it's not enough.
Right.
And
it's not. I completely agree. The only thing, and I've changed my mind. I've changed my perspective on what is required. And as far as the absolute proof, and yes, I think a body's going to need to be brought in.
Henry, you got to get a little closer. You sound like you're drowning.
Sorry.
There you go.
I said, I personally think that a body needs to be brought in for study. I've changed my perspective in the last 10 years because photographic evidence is not enough. The footcasts, they're good, but they're not enough.
Uh-huh. No, and that was a question. It looks like we lost you there in modulation land, but while we get you back...
The DNA evidence isn't enough. Even eDNA, as good as it is, still is not proof.
Well, and by eDNA, for folks who aren't familiar, environmental DNA.
Yeah.
And that's a relatively newer field that is becoming, we could say I really haven't seen it until Expedition Bigfoot. I did catch an episode of that where they were talking about using eDNA to... try to get some more data from that. But so my question for you, besides who was our inspiration for all this, and we can get into that in just a few moments, was, out of all of us here, Henry, you and I'll go first, and we'll bring Vance and Les into the conversation. You kind of answered it. In 15 years, how has our viewpoint changed, and how's our perspectives changed on all this? And I can tell you, I feel personally, I've gotten a lot more skeptical on claims and sightings and encounters than I ever used to be. And part of that is twofold. I think over 20 plus years I've investigated, you can start getting patterns in the sighting reports where you can start telling BS from the real deal. You can interview people and just tell by body language the real content and the BS. Not that I think anybody... I change it. There are people out there that do this because they're bored and they need a hobby. But for those people that are out there and sincere and have actual encounters, you can tell the difference. And you can see it in their eyes, hear it in their voice. There's almost this intangible, bond and feeling you get from them. As an experiencer myself now, right? In 15 years, I've had now maybe 3 experiences that I can recall and count on that have changed my perspective from thinking about the possibility of this animal existing to knowing, and that's a dangerous word, right? Knowing it exists to, changing that mind frame. Okay, well, now that I've had some personal validation, how the hell do I prove this? And the evidence that we have isn't good enough. And I'm taking it upon myself to train myself to get better at evidence collection. And using all these data points we've collected, 20, 30 plus years of sighting reports here in Pennsylvania alone that I can recall, how do we look at the data? How do we deploy? And it's really what I found interesting about Expedition Bigfoot, and Les, you can vouch for this because you're a part of it. Keystone Bigfoot Project here in Pennsylvania, a big part of our work was gathering the information and plotting it out to look at data trends where we can deploy more efficiently and effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And, I applaud Expedition Bigfoot for getting that, rolling very much so on a more professional scale than we ever did. But I think we were able to plot it on Google Earth, but we still weren't able to dive deep and get, things like moon cycles, seasons, time of year in a collective, cohesive way where we could click a button and it would show up.
Right, ours was more the old analog way of tracking with pen and paper. We didn't have all the technology to back us. But no, you're right in the sense that we did kind of collect that data to try and, for lack of better terms, triangulate areas that would might be hot spots or hotbeds of activity. And it did work out at that one location we were at. What is it, Catawissa or that area?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, that was, we're going to talk about, actually, Friday night I'm going to be on Arcane Radio, another one of my old programs, with Lon Strickler, and I'm going to talk about Catawissa Les a little bit, because that was probably, of the last few years, that was one of the more credible places I think we've investigated.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a witness in that situation, guys, who was a former Marine. He's an MMA coach, and he woke up one morning to go out and do some hunting and saw something standing next to a hay bale in his field, and the hay bale was 6 feet tall. This thing was about 2 feet taller than it, and it scared the crap out of him.
Wow.
Yeah, anything that big would scare the crap out of me, too.
Absolutely. I'm only 5 feet tall to begin with.
Right. Well, and take the location itself. I mean, there was an abundance of food sources surrounding the area where he had his sighting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of farmland, a lot of thick vegetated areas. They had the waterway right there. There were a lot of things that kind of created that habitat that would, I guess, what I would say would be the perfect habitat for any kind of a creature, let alone a Bigfoot, if that was what in fact he saw.
Yeah. And you take his background into consideration, former military, MMA coach. He has people over at his home frequently, and he actually was running his coaching out of his home, and like, this man was no joke. When we went hiking with him, his hiking stick was a utility axe. So this man was not afraid.
No, not at all. And like you said before, like with the body language, when we were questioning, well, you primarily were questioning him, you could see in his eyes and the way he spoke and the way he reacted to certain questions and the way he relived his encounter, there was a sincerity, like it was genuine, his emotion. When you would ask the question or slightly reworded in a repetitive pattern, all the answers came out the same. Whereas other people that you would interview, they'd be like, "Oh, well, their story would change, their answers would change. They lack consistency." His was on point throughout everything, and there was a lot of credible things throughout that interview that I thought could point to him being sincere in that he saw something, whether or not it was a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch that he claimed it was. That's not for me to say because I wasn't there to see it, but he saw something, that's for sure.
And it was credible. Absolutely
yeah,
credible.
Exactly. Yeah.
I learned all my investigative techniques for questioning from Columbo, by the way. One more thing.
There is just one thing, ma'am.
Yeah. I mean, it works, right? Yeah, we laugh, but it works. Like, the things you pick up, because this is a field where everybody has to educate themselves, right? And there's no handbook. As much as we try to create one, there's no class you can go take. You do have to have, a certain amount of common sense. And you just have to be, like Les said, you have to be smart enough to kind of ask questions in multiple different ways to see if you're going to get different answers. You have to be clever. And, with this witness, he checked all the boxes. Plus, we got that lovely spaghetti dinner one morning at like 2 a.m. His mom made.
That was phenomenal. That was phenomenal.
Because look, we're out there, guys. Go ahead.
What's that?
Go ahead. Yep.
I was going to say the only thing that would have made that night better is it not being like negative 50 degrees in February. If it were in the summer, that would have been phenomenal.
I looked at my journals from that day, and it was negative 5 degrees down by the creek bed.
Mm-hmm.
It was cold.
I had deployed some camera traps throughout the area as we were doing the investigation and whatnot, in hopes that maybe we would kick something up or anything, even to see what other kind of wildlife was in the area and see if it would interact while we were there. And it was that cold. 2 out of the 3 camera traps that I had with me froze, and they didn't work anymore. It was that cold. The whole inner workings froze up, and I got nothing out of any of them.
I want to say I remember you radioing down to me when you and Ray were up on the power lines that you could see the power arcing.
That wasn't me.
Or Ray could see the power arcing off the power lines. That's how intense this was up in that place. It was cold.
You could definitely hear.
You could hear the hum.
An audible. Yeah, I mean, it was the major hum, and and every now and again you hear that little crack, something was going on. I was like, I don't think I want to be up here anymore.
You guys weren't up there long. I'll tell you that. It was cold, but it was worth it because we did have that interesting experience with that, whatever it was, that shadowy mass that kept lurking around the back end of the creek bed, and the loud. And I don't know if you were with us this one particular night. Something large was thrown through the air and hit the guardrail up on that high highway road above them.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that one.
Oh,
no.
that was loud. That actually made my butt pucker. That was so... It was frightening. It really was. I was like, where the heck did that come from? And I almost ran out of there. And that was a pretty far run to the house, and I was fat then, so it would have taken me... I was vulnerable. I could have been taken. But, to get back to the point I was trying to make, it's those instances and situations that change perspective. And we can go out and interview as many witnesses as we want and gather that data, but it still doesn't provide us with evidence. And evidence is something we sorely need, and we just haven't gotten the caliber of evidence that I've expected us to have in 15 years. And we've got some really good groups out there right now. We got the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. We've got the Olympic Project. I can't say enough about those guys out there. There's some really good stuff going on. And, it makes me a little jealous. If we could get our shit together here on the East Coast, we could get some really good research done. We really could. And because it's here. I mean, and I can speak for Pennsylvania, less you can because we live here. The habitat's suitable. The stories are copious, and there's no slowing down of the reports because they're still coming in. And they're coming in from parts of the state that in the past we never had because people finally realize somebody's listening and they're going to take them seriously, incredibly.
Right.
And I think that's one thing we can be proud of over those last 15 years is that culture we've helped cultivate.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that
Sean,
go ahead, Vance. Sorry.
That's all I meant, Sean, is that the evidence keeps coming in. Maybe evidence wasn't the right word, but at least these reports are still coming in, and yet we're no closer to coming to a conclusion. But, I want to hear your point, Les.
Oh, no, all I was going to say is to what Sean had said, is people are becoming less embarrassed to come forward or have less fear of ridicule. I've had since I kind of put myself out there as I guess unwillingly, other people just word of mouth said, oh, he's the Bigfoot guy, so I kind of get pegged as that, so more and more people in my local area have approached me and they're like, hey, that whole Bigfoot thing, are you serious about that or is that just a joke? I'm like, well, it's something that I've always had a passion for or an interest in, the unknown, mysterious creatures, And I said, so, yeah, I mean, I would love to think that this does, in fact, exist. And, they're like, all right, well, I kind of had this happen or I saw this or I know somebody who saw that. And I was shocked at the amount of sightings, not only local to me, but on the east coast of Pennsylvania, because typically it was always on the Allegheny side, on the western side of the state, but there's a lot more around here than I think people even realize, reports-wise.
Well, and that gets to the point, Les, because back then predominantly the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society was all West Coast people with a sprinkling of folks on the East Coast, I should say western part of the state to the eastern part of the state. And when I joined in early 2000s, I was one of myself, Joe Biello, Pat and Earl Dundor. That was like it for north, central, and eastern Pennsylvania. There wasn't a whole lot of folks exploring out that way. And then through the years, yourself and Matt Arner and other individuals joined up, Dustin, Ray, Rich. And then the more we talk to people, the more comfortable it got. And we have to be thankful for shows like Finding Bigfoot. As much as a pain some researchers feel they are, and yes, it's drama, it made the show legitimate. It made the topic legitimate again in pop culture and, really stirred the pot and brought it back to a mainstream type feel. You're not looked at so much like a freak anymore when you tell people what you do and why you're out someplace. They look at you and they ask questions. And yeah, you still get the obligatory dumbass question. Oh, is there more than one? Well, no, there's not. Pull the bottom lip over your head and swallow, pal. Okay? That's funny.
Wow, listen to you.
You get that dumb question. You get the dumb questions, but a lot of times people are genuinely curious. And then you might even get that person that says, hey, my pap, God rest his soul, passed away a few years back, and he was always kind of poking fun at me that I was into this. And then we were taking a trip through Clearfield out to Ohio, right there on Interstate 80. And Clearfield's near and dear to my heart, Clearfield County. Mm-hmm. And I was telling my pap my experience that I had out there because, I don't think he ever really heard it. It was on the last road trip we ever took together, too, by the way. And he said, Sunshine, he goes, I've always poked fun at you about this and busted your balls, but, back we used to fish at a place called Rose Valley Lake here in Lycoming County. One night as he was walking back to his vehicle, he saw something large run past him through the lantern light. And it kind of freaked him out because he distinctly remembers it running on 2 legs, not 4 legs. Mm-hmm. And, finally, after, all those years, he finally had the courage to, say something to me about it and kind of gave it a little bit more, emphasis as, getting some answers and to find out what's going on. There's a part of this field for everybody. The active investigator, the researcher, the armchair person. Everybody's got a part to play in this. I don't know if one category is more important than the other anymore. But damn it, we got to do something different because whatever we're doing right now is not cutting the mustard. And rather it's more shows like Expedition Bigfoot or, real legitimate applications of science. We got to do something drastically different to get different to get different results. Other than that, it's just insanity, right? What's the definition of insanity?
Yeah, we're doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
The same thing over and over again.
Absolutely, right? And
but,
so we're all insane.
Look, with the funding that's available, now you may have a television program that's willing to fund you to go out and find Bigfoot, but it's under their guidelines. And you don't have the monetary resources for the tools that you may really need. If you want to find this thing, we have the technology to do it, but who's got the money to do it? You know darn well there's satellite technology that can pick up anything with a heat signature, with infrared, you name it, it can pick it up. The technology is there, but who's got, $150 million to spend on one project? No one will do that.
So I got an idea.
Hard. You have to keep stepping down to tools that are affordable. Maybe it's drones with FLIR. And you just have to keep focusing on the same areas and the same remote areas over and over and over at a high altitude. But at some point, we have the technology. It's just we can't seem to funnel it into this particular thing because, again, it comes back to a little bit of the ridicule of, no, it's culturally acceptable with Bigfoot now more than it was 10 years ago. But on the scientific end, I just don't see that money being resourced for what we do have the technology for.
As we're sitting here, I came up with an idea for a new TV show.
There it is.
All right. So, folks, if you have children, kick them out of the room. It's called, because, money's an option. It's called hooking for Bigfoot.
There you go.
And we're going to go out. This is for HBO. We'll go out and sell ourselves to make a little extra money. Yeah. Henry and I can charge per pound. And
we'll call it Sasso.
Yeah. We're going to call it hooking for Bigfoot. Hooking for Bigfoot. And that's going to be how we fund these moving forward. Because, you make a valid point, Vance. It's money, right? The fact of the matter is none of us are independently wealthy, or to the fact that we have the extra money we just want to shell out to look for a big giant ape that may or may not exist to mainstream science, right? Science has pretty much said, yeah, we'll look at this, but we don't care. We're not going to look at this, I'm sorry, because it's really the chances of it being real are completely bunk. Again, you go back and listen to that latest episode of Monsteropolis. Mark is far more eloquent than I am on that particular subject. And the money, right? We need it. And unless one of us hits it big, I don't see a lot of scientific funding being dripped in. Part of that is the overall presentation of the researcher.
Right.
I'm not saying you have to be educated, but damn, you should sound a little educated, right? You should be able to articulate, and you should keep data, and you should be able to, have a mission, what your focus is, how you plan on doing it. You got to have a game plan, a business plan to attack the subject. That's why organizations like, NAW, whatever, you know who I'm talking about, North America Wood Apes.
Wood Ape Conservancy, right.
I'm not good with the acronyms.
That's all right.
And Vince McMahon blew that with me. WWE, WWF, WWFE.
WWFU. Yeah.
We've got Get the F Out. We got pandas hitting each other with chairs. It's pandemonium. And so, acronyms aside, that's where some of those organizations really do it right. And we have to either individually or collectively pull ourselves up and say, we got to do something better and different. And I don't want to keep harboring on this because we could talk about it for another 4 hours and hammer the same points home. Right. But I think we can all agree it's time to stop being insane and time to get, different. One question I pose to you guys and, is, the paranormal Bigfoot, right? I myself am not a proponent of paranormal Bigfoot. Now, do you think in the 21st century it's possible that we could coexist with one another, maybe come together and say, hey, let's try to document the existence of this creature before we start layering on the paranormal crap, and after we prove it, then we can start expounding upon the paranormal potential.
Yeah,
but I think it's human nature to take a subject that's new and then you blow it out of proportion. And you go to the far reaches of the universe on that particular subject. To me, that's just human nature. We'll do it in a story that we share that may have happened at us at work, and then by the time you tell your spouse, it's slightly exaggerated, just to not so much to make it more than what it was, but it was to get the listener more involved in the story. So you kind of embellish a little bit. But I think that's part of human nature. And I just want to go back to a real quick point, and then we'll get back on your topic, because you were speaking about Mansky being an eloquent speaker, and that we do need more of those, and not to belittle anybody in the past that is no longer with us as far as a researcher. But, my inspiration was Bender Naugle, because he was very eloquent and a wonderful researcher. And I'm sorry that he's gone. He's a big hole, just like so many others before him that have left in this community that we really need now if science is going to even kind of open one eye to looking at the subject seriously.
Eric,
he was an academic too, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Wasn't he? Did he have a doctorate in biology or something?
Well, biologist,
yes.
Yeah. So I mean, he has the credentials to back it up. He's going to know what to look for when out in the field. So that just adds to his dramatically to his ability. Yeah, I agree with you. He was awesome. Great books too.
There was another big hole left in this community. I'm sorry, a big hole left this community. Eric Beckyard,
Yes.
That's one sad I'm not. I'm alive. He's not. I won.
Yeah.
Yes, Henry. I'm still holding a grudge.
I was
years.
waiting for this to come out.
I won.
Oh, how
died.
well I remember that. How well I remember that.
And before people say that's really cold, that SOB would call at all hours of the night, would harass people, would mail people things, would call people's places of employment. He was not a nice person. I remember I tried to eulogize him in a positive light, and on the old Force Giants Yahoo group, Henry, you remember that. And
yes.
I got spanked for saying nice things about this person. I'm like, yeah, right. You're right. He was awful. And he really was. And I win. He died. And we can move on now. I don't feel bad. I'm sorry. Everybody else, I've had a great amount of respect for, but I won. Bender Naugle, however, was a great dude. In fact, if you go back and listen to the archives, good old Beckyard made his mark on our interview with Jeff Meldrum, on our interview with Dr. John Bender Naugle. I'm sure he would have with John Green, too, had we had not been as smart as we were. And, we were really fortunate enough that when the show was in its infancy, we had a lot of resources still available to us. We were able to talk to John Green, which was a dream for me. John Green is still, if there's somebody I've tried to model myself after in this field, it's been John Green. And his book was the one that got me hooked, and I guess I've always had I never got to meet him. Henry did. I never got to meet John, and I've always been saddened by that because I felt like I had this kinship with him, and I wish I would have been able. We corresponded via email. We talked over the years, call him at his home, but I never got to meet him, and I've always been saddened by that. But I got an interview with him. I have it on CD. I saved it, burned it on CD here at the house, so I'll always have that moment. And Henry, we did some cool stuff with that. We
did. We actually got him on twice.
Yeah. How about that? 2 times with.
And then y'all had, I think you and Eric had him on Beyond the Edge Radio as well.
You know what? So long ago I can't remember. I can barely remember last week, let alone. but I, fondly, at least I've had that experience, be able to talk with him and probe his mind. And I was younger and a lot stupider back then, so. I kind of feel now I wish I could pick up the phone and call him because I'm, a lot more experienced. And there's something to be said about that experience. When I talk to people that want to get involved in this field, guys, I always say find a mentor, somebody who's been around a long time, that's done the ins and outs, who's respected, but still, isn't a sycophant. Somebody that's able to articulate and think of their own and think outside the box. I was fortunate enough to have that. I was able to talk to guys like John Green and Dr. Bender Naugle, and still able to talk to Dr. Meldrum if I ever have to pick up a phone and give him a ring-a-ling-a-ding-dong. But, my mentor was Eric Altman, and I know sometimes he's a controversial figure in the field, but he was somebody that's always been good to me, taught me a lot, gave me a lot of opportunity I wouldn't have had probably with other folks, and, taught me a lot about this field of research. So I'm forever thankful for what Eric's done for me. And, I still keep in communication with Eric. I talk to him regularly. You can never say thank you to those people enough that kind of help foster the way for you. And it was important because, he was the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society for the longest time. And he taught me so much, and I've been able to pass that wisdom and information on to others, and I'm just thankful for it. What about the rest of you?
I agree. And Eric's mentor, I believe, is Stan Gordon. So,
yeah, that's 100% true. And fortunately, I always kind of refer to Stan as my grand mentor. Because. You've been able to, go one step further. And again, you talk about the history of Bigfoot, at least in Pennsylvania. Stan, nobody's done it as long as Stan Gordon. Maybe Dr. Paul Johnson might be there next. Joan Jeffers was in the field for a while, but she, again, one thing we can't leave the women out, a very important part of this field, and they may get farther than the men in the actual terms of research and results. But Joan Jeffers was a lady who was involved in the UFO Bigfoot research since the 70s. She passed away, I think, in the late 90s. And I try to keep her legacy alive and find out as much about her as possible, because it's important that, everybody has that, person they can connect with in this field, that empathist, that personal connection. And to the ladies that are in this field, especially the newer ladies, learn a little bit about the history of our work and the people that paved the way before you, the Bobby Shorts, the Joan Jeffers, and Henry can, rattle off 450 other important names, because that's his gift. He's like the Bigfoot savant. So,
Kathy Strain definitely
absolutely
is one of those.
And today you look at Shelley Montana, Amy Boo, those phenomenal female investigators that, there's really a place for younger women to get into cryptozoology, to, reach out and contact and get some sort of mentoringship with these great, phenomenal research. I do it myself. I don't let sex be a barrier for me in terms of who I'm reaching out with. I want to know and learn as much as I can. I honestly think the women have the advantage. They're not as dumb as we are. And I mean that with all respectful intent.
Well, here's a good example of that. All you have to say is Jane Goodall. There you go. Look what she was able to do with a discovered animal. So, yeah, it may just be that. It may be on the female end that this whole thing just blossoms open and gets discovered.
You got to love doing these shows, because at times you go on your own verbal tangents and don't realize you're doing it. Somewhere along the line, we were talking about paranormal Bigfoot. Were we ever going to be able to reconcile the field? And now here we are, the great, liberators of the Bigfoot field. Social justice, it's important. Thumbs up, my brothers, or fists up. But, to the point.
Everybody's welcome. Everybody is welcomed. This is not a dude community. Everybody is welcome. Maybe we should have, Sasquatchery with a rainbow flag, all inclusive. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
You're taking this too far. Someone pull the hook. No. No, Vance, Les, Henry, what do you guys think on that? Can we reconcile the groups, the fringe groups, into the mainstream? Is there a way to co-op together and put aside the agendas and look at this as a systemic, can we break this problem down piece by piece? Can we say, here's step one. Once we achieve step one, let's start going to steps 2, 3, and 4.
I think we can, and I'll tell you why. Because as Derek Randall's once famously said, don't be a dick. Believe what you want. Just don't be a dick.
There's truth to that.
Yeah. Perfectly said. Beautifully said.
And look, even in the past, we go back and listen to these shows. I was anti-paranormal. Henry, you know it. I used to get riled up, all kinds of riled up. In Pennsylvania, and I was talking to Seth Breedlove about this when we were doing, I was interviewing with On the Trail of UFOs. I don't know if they'll use any of me or not. I looked angry for some reason. I don't know. I think I looked angry. You can't talk about UFOs in Pennsylvania without talking about Bigfoot, and you can't talk about Bigfoot in Pennsylvania without UFOs. Especially you get into the 70s and that whole flap in Westmoreland County in 73, 74, they're just so married to each other, you can't escape the history of Pennsylvania without it. And, of course, we have listeners from all over the globe. Maybe. We could just be the four of us. Who knows? Well, I know Andy Matsky's listening because he tweeted, and I liked and retweeted. Love that kid. Pennsylvania's just where we happen to live. So that's, my background and where I speak. But I'm sure similarly you could find these in your own states, provinces, countries, where there's these flaps that line up. And there are cases, and I used to get so bent out of shape about it, there are cases that just don't have an explanation, footprints that just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they go, right? The footprints just stop and they end. Stan's told me several stories about that. The old lady that opens up her door and shoots the Bigfoot and it explodes into light.
Right.
That's not normal animal behavior. But they're being
well, I mean,
reported.
there's been times that I've been hiking through the woods, especially during winter, where the tracks are very visible, and I've seen deer track and other animal tracks and stuff where you'd be following them along, and all of a sudden they just stop, and it's like, where the hell do they go? Where's it at? You know? So I mean, there's oddities out there. Would I say they're jumping through parallel portals or universes or whatnot? I don't know if I'd really want to muddy one mythology with another, or one mystery with another, you know, like we were saying about the paranormal. Believe in what you want. I don't care. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion and their beliefs, but me personally, I try not to muddy those waters, because in my opinion, I think whatever this Bigfoot might be, if it does in fact exist, I'm on the flesh and blood team, you know, that it is a living, viable creature, not a spirit or ghost or whatever you want to call it. But point is, I've seen tracks of known creatures that just went for several feet, miles, yards, you know, and then all of a sudden the trackway ended, and where did it go? I have no idea. So, I mean, it's not like it's only Bigfoot tracks that stop in, you know, the middle of a field and disappear without a trace.
That's a good point.
No.
I think it adds
Very
some
true.
question as to where the hell do they go?
That is the question. A Thunderbird. Thunderbird took them away.
Because
there you go.
my footprints always show up. I can. You'd have to be a really big bird to lift me up into the sky. That's all I'm saying. It'd be like Big Bird on steroids.
Hi, Sean.
Wow, that was pretty well done. Good for you.
Yeah.
And I scream loud too, let me tell you. So if they don't see it, which could you imagine this fat kid getting lifted up out of the ground by a big yellow bird? Oh my God. And the sounds would be so unnatural. People would probably think they were a Bigfoot getting murderized out there. But
the sounds from the birds struggling to lift you, or the sounds you'd be making?
Column A, column B, you know, it happens. Stupid birds. There we go.
Yeah. Hey, look, you know, there's nothing to say that clearly there's things in this universe that are not discovered yet. And when the correlation, and I argue with myself over this point, when the correlation comes in that, no, Bigfoot's a paranormal creature and it has cloaking abilities, and then you get the other side where, no, it's flesh and blood.
Flesh and butt.
Why is it? Why is that? Why could you not have a paranormal creature and a Bigfoot? One nothing to do with the other. You're just talking two separate entities that stand 8 feet tall, may look similar. Who's to say? You get your UFO crowd gathered, and you have the whatever, Scandinavian aliens, whatever you want to call the Nordics. Okay, they look like us. Okay, great. They come from a different place, but they look like us. It's hard to tell the two apart. So maybe you have two different communities. Fine. Have your Bigfoot community. It's an alien creature. Cool. Study that. And then you'll have your flesh and blood. I said it properly that time. You study that. It could be two separate things altogether, but it gets tied in as, no, I think Bigfoot's a paranormal creature. No, I think it's flesh and blood. Well, it could very well be two separate things altogether, and let's just start with one and study the living daylights out of it until you have something tangible. You show me a portal where it came through, fine, then we'll take a look at that portal. But in the meantime, and to go back, you brought up Stan Gordon and all this that was going on with the paranormal and Bigfoot sightings, and yeah, it's completely strange. But if it wasn't for Stan Gordon to crack that egg open, this whole topic may not have blossomed the way that it has. So kudos to him for, sticking as many years into this and the research and his publicizing of it, writing about it and doing television and coming across, again, like the word you said, eloquently. He did a fantastic job. And all he's doing is reporting as to what he received. He's not making his own analogy. He's just reporting what comes to him. And that's another big important thing for me. Just tell the story as it was told to you. And to me, that's very credible.
Yeah, he has a really good journalistic approach. where he's kind of like unbiased and stands back from it and just gives the facts or reported facts.
Do you remember the dinner we had with Stan, Les, and Cabela's in West Virginia?
I do, yes.
Remember,
he's awesome.
You hit him with so you're the UFO Bigfoot guy. You remember that? And he's like, well... You remember that?
Yeah, I've met him a few times, and he did a lecture in Whitehaven, which is a neighboring town to me, and we had rekindled that time out in West Virginia and whatnot, and he was interested in a couple of reports that I had received locally that he wanted information on, and we didn't converse after that, unfortunately. I guess things happen and I forgot. But he's awesome. Great guy, great to talk to, and has a plethora of books filled with information. Everybody should check him out. Not to give him a plug, but what the heck?
Hey, you know what? That's
what the word plethora means a lot to me, right?
What's that?
The word plethora means a lot to me.
Oh, does it?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, there was a time I could ask for a cyanide tablet, and that would be it. So, moving on to the topics now, because I think we're all under the same consensus. Yes, we can do this, and potentially, if we could get it together, it would work out okay. If folks are on Facebook, you can check out Dan Nadrello's White Biped Project. This is really important to me. It's not a racial thing. White-haired Bigfoot. They've been spotted over the years, cited over the years. Don Keating took a video in, I think, 1992, Henry?
Yes.
And definitely a light-colored creature. They've been seen and reported over the years. Dan's trying to run a project where he's getting all the information and data together to see what he can find out and look for in there. It's pretty interesting.
Well,
and
where else could people find it? You said on Facebook?
Yep.
Is there a page dedicated?
Yep. Just, I think, Google, Facebook, the White Biped Project. If you're friends with me, I'll send you a link if you folks ask, or I'll put the link in the Sasquatch Experience Facebook group or page, because I know he wants people to participate in it. But really interesting stuff coming out of there so far. And I'm curious, because these creatures, as long as I've been in the field, whenever you hear the reports of a white Sasquatch, like, people perk up, man. They're interested in this.
I actually had a report given to me. My wife's cousin, she worked in the mountaintop area of Pennsylvania, warehouse. So she was doing, I believe, third shift. So she said she was going to take her lunch, and it was early morning, 2-3 o'clock, somewhere around there. And she said she had run down to a convenience store near where she worked to grab a bite to eat. And she said as she was leaving the industrial park to turn onto the main road, I guess there was like a clear-cut area across the street. And she said as she was turning and her headlights kind of panned across the open area, she said she saw what she described as a large, long hair, white creature running across this clear cut. And she said the way it kind of traversed, because it's all stumps, shrub brush. Our area is very littered with those larger glacier boulders from when the ice age and the glaciers passed through. It's all over around here. And so this clear cut had a lot of the boulders, had a lot of, like I said, scrub brush, a lot of stumps and down trees and whatnot. So for any person to run through there, it would be challenging. And she said the way it cleared this open area with all the obstacles laid out in front of it, she said she couldn't believe that with just the amount of time when she took to turn, how that thing kind of raced and almost panned along with her. She said she was scared, but yet impressed at, oh my God, how this thing is moving at such a pace. And she was dumbfounded, but obviously she wasn't able to get an accurate height measurement. There wasn't anything that she could say, oh, well, it was next to this branch or this tree or whatever, and I was able to measure. Nothing like that. She just said she saw this thing. It ran at a fast pace across this clear cut, and it was all white with long hair. And I was like, that is pretty interesting, considering Pennsylvania and Ohio have a pretty high number of these albino or all white Bigfoot sightings.
You know, my mother-in-law lives in Mountaintop.
Cool. Oh, really? Well, there you go. That answers that. Case closed.
It wasn't Bigfoot. It was Mom. All right.
Oh, my gosh.
Hey, it's not a Sasquatch experience without referring to my mother-in-law.
At least once.
Love you, Mom. Don't disown me after those. I'm going to get divorced now. Thanks. One more thing to look forward to. I'm going to be sleeping on Henry's couch. Never been to Mississippi, so there's always a time and a place.
Yeah, not everybody said where they're from on this show. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Mississippi, so.
Vance, you're the only one who's
John
new
and I
here.
are Pennsylvania.
I'm the new guy. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, well, that's why, because I'm the new guy. I'm like, so where's everybody from?
Poor Vance. I abuse the hell out of Vance on a daily basis.
No, that's fine. You're not the excuse of why I started drinking. No, not at all.
I am the enabler. I'm the reason you've become an alcoholic. That's sad. Listen, Vance has been one of the few people, well, besides Henry, but Henry was already nuts, to work with me for years at a time without needing a bottle. I mean, hell.
This has been family therapy hour.
Yeah, right.
I'm a demanding man to work with in terms of production, and I demand more from you, Vance. Questions like, where are y'all from?
Yeah, where y'all from?
You know, and I was saying this to Henry before we went on the air, this show's not going to quite be the same because we're not going to have our buddy Bill Green calling in and asking questions. Bill's still alive. He's not dead, so we don't have to be that sad. But he's not able to contact us like we used to. But, Henry, that one question that we always got from Bill was a conversation starter.
Yep.
And what was that question?
Have you had any recent sightings or footprint discoveries or weird sounds or anything like that? What's new in your area?
Yeah. I miss Bill, and hopefully I'm going to go back and get the recordings and pull a Bill Green out there and just use it as a playback sound every so often. That way we have the remembrance of Bill. And maybe I'll even find the old ramen noodle clip.
Oh, no.
Maybe. You know, when you talk about Sasquatch Experience and the history we've had over the years, it's not a show without a gaffe, some way, shape, or form. Henry tripped before the show came on air tonight, but I remember ramen noodles. I remember him yelling at Bill. I remember that sometimes, too. That was fun.
Oh, that was classic.
Or Henry yelling at somebody in the background, or my favorite, the urine stream. That's always going to be But you know, Henry, at least you never did that with a guest like Dr. Meldrum or John Green. That'd be a little different, right? It was just Melissa Hovey, who, by the way, Melissa was a co-host on this program. James Baker was going to be here tonight, but he had other commitments. So, but James,
he's on assignment.
He's on assignment. That's right. He'll be back to do these episodes with us too, occasionally, Henry, from time to time.
Cool.
You know, we got White Biped Project. I'm reading off the script here because I did make notes before we went along. Expedition Bigfoot. Henry, give us a take on it quick for folks that may not have partaken in the show yet.
Well, first of all, I've had a sighting of a white Bigfoot. You guys probably heard about it. If you haven't, look it up online. It's online. And second of all, as far as Expedition Bigfoot, I enjoyed. I mean, it's entertainment, obviously. I mean, it's not. I think that Bigfoot shows generally tend to be more about entertainment than anything else. Not really necessarily about the research so much, but still, I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean, they seem to have got some interesting evidence.
You know, that's a good point.
For sure.
I watched an episode. I enjoyed it a little bit. I thought it got a little gimmicky with the whole, Russell experiencing infrasound, and who knows. That could be for TV. I'm not going to hold that against anybody. You need to be entertaining for it to be, have some longevity. But if you're really looking for documentary type takes, you look no further than the Small Town Monster stuff.
They're great.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I don't say that again because they're friends. I say it because he does great work. And if it sucked, I'd tell him it sucked. But really, I think On the Trail, Bigfoot is going to set the dynamics of Bigfoot documentary. It raises the bar for it. It really does. And look, you can go on Amazon Prime and YouTube and watch documentaries. There's one that goes Expedition Sasquatch I've watched, and it's just a guy talking to some people and walking around the woods. I mean, God love him. He's doing his best out there. And it's entertaining, but like you need a little bit more, I guess, to get the substance. Did you watch the Port Chatham expedition from Alaska?
No,
that was interesting. Some folks might find it a bit of a yawn, but I found it very interesting. And of course, the Lancasters, they're cultured Bigfoot, paranormal Bigfoot, and they've got native Bigfoot coming out. I found them to be very interesting, and there's a bunch of them. The Unwanted Sasquatch, if you saw that, Chasing Bigfoot,
yes,
on Amazon that are also available.
Unwanted Sasquatch.
Chasing Bigfoot's a good one.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. So there's really
I'm
good.
in that for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. What were you interviewed or were you?
No, I wasn't interviewed, but they were paying with the cameras, and I was talking to Paul Halsey and Amy Del Rio.
Wasn't that's when you were at the Ohio Bigfoot conference, right, Henry?
Yes, that's
correct.
correct.
Yeah, I remember seeing the footage. Yeah,
Henry's been to all the conferences, man. He's the traveling man.
I see him sprinkled in a lot of things.
Sprinkles?
You're a celebrity and you don't even know it.
Next week, Henry Sprinkles May. That's the new nickname. Sprinkles. Hey, Sprinkles. That's gonna be your name on our show, hooking for Bigfoot. Sprinkles. Oh man.
Oh God.
We just gave some information out there.
We have gone. I need to put a seatbelt on and a neck brace because you switched gears real fast on me there.
If you wear the neck brace long enough, you can collect disability. So you might want to.
This is true.
Keep that.
If this show has offended you, you might be entitled to compensation.
If this show's offended you, I really don't care. I try to warn everybody when they listen. You don't know where they're going. The Facebook group I want to keep family friendly. The show, it's on your own, okay? You listen at your own risk. It depends on the mood. And I've not even had a drink tonight, so we're even better. This is just fun. Like, we haven't done this in so long. Like, I get these spurs of energy, and I just want to say something out of control and ridiculous, like, Eric Beckbeard's dead. But I'm never going to feel bad about that. I won. And, back to the documentaries. Yes, I kickstart every Small Town Monsters project I can because I believe in it, because they do great work. And if you don't, you're just dumb. You need to send your money, all your money, not just the donation pledge. Just take everything in your bank account and send it to Seth Breedlove so they can make more films. I have nothing to do with, I just show up occasionally and sell DVDs at conferences. But I just believe in, I believe in what they do because there's passion there. And that passion's contagious. And if we can all show a little bit more passion in this field than what we do and find some way to release that back into the community, damn it, that's what it's all about. I think why I wanted to do Sasquatch Experience again was because of Seth and Mark and Les and people that, over the years that Sasquatch Experience was important to them, and though I can go back and be embarrassed by the quality of the show. Les, I think you put it out there.
For the time, or at the time, it was great. I mean, Blog Talk was the bee's knees back then. So, I mean, you can't hold that against you.
No,
the content was still good.
Yeah, and I'll never be happy with the quality of show. And Vance will tell you, just again, it's a passion point to the listeners. As soon as we record a show and I hear it, Vance's phone blows up, and I know Vance is ready to throw it into the garbage can because he knows I'm going to critique every part of it. I want a good product for us. And that's why, I look for like passion in the people I research with and the people I, fellowship with in this field, because we care. So many people in this field have come and gone. Mm-hmm. Right? And either through means of just getting frustrated and giving up, or, untimely, we owe it to the people that have been in this field and that have spent the time, that have either passed away or keep, or still going on with it, that have been in this field a long time, to keep going and to be respectful and to be passionate about this research. We owe it to them. They've paved the way for us. We need to keep it going. And we're only going to do that by infusing new blood. And it should be new, fresh perspectives, because we don't want a bunch of inbred Bigfooters running around. and I mean that in a, I guess, belief kind of way. We want people to be smarter and disciplined to get better results. You should always leave a better generation after you. I firmly believe that. And we have to help them and guide them. But damn it, we need to call a spade sometime too. Like, that's why this whole paranormal flesh and blood thing has to end. I think we have to come to common grounds and say, let's take this in steps. Once we validated step A, let's move on to B, C, and D.
I agree.
We just got to do it. We owe it to each other. We owe it to the people we've succeeded. It's very important to me. We've lost some really good researchers over the years, some really good friends. And the last few years, I felt like I haven't done enough in terms of contributions to the community, aside cutting a check every once in a while to here or there. It's time to get back, and not just into the field, but into the booth and share what we're doing. Be passionate about it and make that contagious and spread it around so we get better results and better products out there to keep people interested and engaged, because when engagement goes away, we're never going to attract that serious audience, and we're going to lose the money that helps fund it. Even that little bit of money we make from a download or a CD helps to go into or a piece of art helps to go into the research, right? So let's keep at it. Let's keep making good products so people are attracted to the mission, attracted to the subject, so we can keep going. Does that make any damn sense?
Oh,
sure. Yeah.
Keep the legacy alive.
That's it. Thank you, Vance. That was a really short way of saying what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have had a drink before we went on the air.
Love that speech.
But you're
absolutely right.
It comes from every community, right? UFO community is no different. Ghost community, they're so damn mean to each other. I don't know how people can stay in the ghost hunting community. You think Bigfooters are bad?
Well, all these communities have their infighting on other.
That's the truth.
Might not be used to hearing a certain subject, but I think all of these communities have their own infighting and struggles, and you have to sort through it like everything else.
I don't know, guys. I have my finger in every research land you can, and the ghost hunters are ruthless. That's what she said. Nice.
Okay. Well,
they're ruthless.
It's possible. You brought up Small Town Monsters and your contribution and what it is that they're doing. And for those that are not familiar, I too have to boast that the On the Trail of Bigfoot is a wonderful series, because it starts at point A and it ends up where we are right at this very second. And it gives you the entire dynamic of the whole Sasquatch Bigfoot phenomena as it is. And even if you can't afford to be part of the Kickstarter, buy a t-shirt, buy a DVD that sounds interesting to you from them. And that will all be contributions to the next projects that come up. And the whole Sasquatch story is not done being told through Small Town Monsters. And they do travel off on a lot of other interesting subjects, just like, Sean, you're part of On the Trail of UFOs, and which I'm excited to see that one. So again, whatever contribution you can do, please do so. And you'll feel like you're part of it, and then you'll be more engaged.
Can I say one thing to that?
Of course.
Just by listening to this, you're a contributor and you're a part of it. And now you have a small piece of ownership to go out and do something with either what you're learning from listening or to get more engaged and involved. This mystery is only going to be solved with boots on the ground and people with thinking brains that can communicate with one another to get this messaging and information out. Like, don't just be a supporter. Be part of the solve. Like, get in there and get dirty. Henry, what was that phrase? You quoted it on the top of your blog for the longest time. This is a full contact sport. You're going to get your jersey dirty. Like,
there you go.
This is you got to be deep with it. You have to be involved. I don't like spectators. Get off the sidelines and get your ass into the game, because we all working together can solve this. And we're running out of time. I firmly believe if we don't answer this question in the next 20 years, there's not a damn reason anybody needs to be involved anymore. The technology is coming a long way. We're running out of excuses, boys and girls. We're running out of excuses, and gender neutral folks.
True. And as long as the question gets answered 100% positive on no, it doesn't, or 100% positive, yes, it does. That's all we want. We just want to know what the truth is. It's not that we're the community that says, nope, I'm sorry, this exists. This isn't about us, like Sean said earlier in the show. This isn't about us. This is about sharing information. And if you want to contribute as a listener and you're thinking this thought process of asking a question, ask the question, because maybe you are asking something that somebody else hasn't thought of yet.
Don't take it for
granted. That
granted.
might help. Exactly. Do not. And that might just channel a different direction on the path to take a look at something that maybe not too many people have thought of yet. So don't consider yourself narrow-minded. Look at the big picture, and if you have questions, ask those questions.
Robert Stack used to say at the beginning of every show, perhaps you too could help us solve one of these mysteries. And there's so much truth to that. You could be that linchpin component. And I don't know if we're trying to evangelize or what the hell we're trying to do here in this little moment of speech that we're having, but it's important that people actually do something. Like, I can't stress it enough. Be part of it. Man, that got a little intense there, didn't it? I felt like I could go out into the woods right now. Grab a six-pack. Let's go. No, we shouldn't be drinking and bigfooting. That's a bad thing. You know, it's one of the other things, too, I have to say. Be smart about it. I don't like people going into the woods by themselves. I'm big against that. Always have a partner. Like missing 411, you don't want to be any part of that. Well, if you are, we'll never know because you'll be missing. But, you know, be mindful and be safe. You know, aside from a Bigfoot, which may or may not exist in the minds of individuals, there are things like bears that will eat you and snakes that will bite you. And, you know, face it, you have a better chance of getting bit by a rattlesnake than you do having a Bigfoot sighting. So just be mindful and be careful of what's going on around you. Current events, guys. Henry, do you happen to know off the top of your head what Bigfoot conferences are coming up soon?
Well, I know in the spring is the Ohio Bigfoot Conference at Salt Fork State Park.
That's a big one.
But also, and that'll be the weekend of May 1st through the 3rd of 2020. But also is an upcoming Abe Del Rio is celebrating the 20th anniversary of MNBRT, the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, with a conference of his own May 22nd through the 24th at Grand Rapids, Minnesota. I think it's called the Timber Lodge and Conference Center.
Oh, nice.
And he's already announced that Bob Gimlin's going to be the first guest there. So
I thought Bob
you can go to mnbrt.com to check out further updates.
I thought Bob retired, Henry, from conferences.
Apparently not.
He's like Ric Flair. I'm telling you. All right. We do have the, speaking of Small Town Monsters, as we have been in the past few moments, Small Town Monsters presents Mysteries and Monsters at the Canton Palace Theater, Saturday, March 21st at 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. I know Lyle Blackburn, Shannon LeGros is going to be there. They're going to show the Minerva Monster because it's the 5 years of Small Town Monsters. I can't believe it's been 5 years already. And they're going to premiere on the trail of UFOs that night. And I think if you folks are really passionate and like I talked about that support, go out and get your butts moving to Canton and check out this great event, Mystery and Monsters at the Canton Palace Theater in Ohio, March 21st, 11 to 11. And nice. I think before we get too far ahead into the rest of the year, we'll keep it short of those two events. I'm proud of my friends. And if you do great work, I'll promote the hell out of you. The proof's in the pudding, right? I don't think there's a better documentary made lately than On the Trail of Bigfoot, not slighting anybody else. But damn, is it good. And take that if you're new to this field, watch that and learn from some really good guided people. Open this thing called a book. They never killed anybody. Well, maybe if they got hit with one at a pretty hard speed. But books are important. I got into this some moron at 3 a.m. decided to blow up my Facebook Messenger. Yeah, I listened to you on so-and-so. I have some questions. Okay, here, read this damn book and leave me alone. Right? 3 a.m. is not the time to be blowing up my messenger when the answers are in a book, right? Read the book. Read books. Sasquatch the Apes Among Us is the book you should start with. And I'm running a contest, guys, okay? To the listener, we're going to run this contest till the middle of February. Let's say February 15th, right? That's a good number. I like that. I got a question here. Henry, you're not allowed to answer it because you're just, you know too much. You do. And I think if you may not phone a friend, but you do have to email us the answer, squatchexperience@gmail.com, squatchexperience@gmail.com. Email your answer to me, and the question is, this man traveled North America during the 1970s with a legendary figure in the field, collecting encounters to add to their database. All right? You can hit the rewind button and answer that one, and keep playing it back and do some research. But you answer that question, you'll win a prize, and that prize is I'm going to send you the ebook version of Sasquatch the Apes Among Us, the book that got me interested in Bigfoot. No terms and conditions apply. Just don't be a schlep. Email us squatchexperience@gmail.com. And if you get the answer right and you're the first one to get it, you have to be the first one, you're going to be the winner. And I'll announce it on the Facebook page. I think that's pretty cool, pretty fun. Let's see here. Back to our agenda. This is new, so give us a little bit of a break. This is our first show in 10 years, right? So cut me some slack. Guys, where can folks find you? They want to connect with you because you're all a part of this now. It's not just one and done. Like once you're part of Sasquatch Experience, you're experienced and you're now part of the family. Les, where can folks find you?
Oh, jeez. I'm not prepared. I guess on Facebook, you can find me. I have a group, I guess, with a friend of mine, Chad Charlesworth. We're the Explorers Seekers of the Truth. We have a page on there. You can contact us through there. Sasquatch ATV Research Team. Maybe if I'm back on this show, I could talk to you all about some experiences that I had on a property that I lived on a few years ago that could potentially be Bigfoot. I don't know. I'm not saying yay or nay, but some weird stuff had happened. So you can find that on Facebook or email encounters@Explorers Seekers of the Truth or explorersgroup.com. It's been so long since I did my show, too. I can't remember what the email address is. Encounters@explorersgroup.com. There we go. I'm done. I'm tired and I'm rambling. So.
All right. Vance, where can folks find you?
A lot of times they can find me in the living room, sometimes in the bathroom. No, I can be found at Vance A. Nesbitt on Facebook. I am who I am, and I'm not trying to steal your line there, Sean, but Vance A. Nesbitt on Facebook, also associated with SuperNRML on Facebook and Instagram, Vance_Nesbitt_NRML. and I'm always looking forward to hearing from people, and they can follow or send me messages, whatever it is regarding these shows. And of course, we will always correspond back with the wonderful listeners.
All right. And Henry, my friend, the one who started it all, the first partner I've ever had, the lady that brought me to the dance. Where can folks find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Henry B. May the 4th. And by the way, that's not to be confused with my father, Henry May. So if you're looking for, if you friend Henry May, that's my dad. But if you friend Henry B. May the 4th, that's me. So that's where you can find me. I've also got a Southeast Sasquatch Association page. I have a 50 Years of the Patterson-Gimlin film page. I have an HBO's Crypto Corner page on Facebook. So I'm here, there, and everywhere.
He is, and he's a wealth of Bigfoot knowledge. Hit him up with your questions, except for the question that we gave you tonight on the show. And, of course, folks, I'm Sean, the Fork Chop Fork. You can find me, I am my name, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, at Sean Forker. You can also find us, the Sasquatch Experience, on Instagram, Sasquatch Experience, and on Facebook, the Sasquatch Experience Facebook page. Become one with us and enjoy the experience, the Sasquatch Experience. And Henry, what's that famous line you got?
Y'all be good or be good at it.
There you go. How about that? It's been so long since he said it. He had to think for a minute. Folks, thank you for listening. We hope this show was everything you thought it would be. I had a lot of fun doing it. And besides from the pontificating and the call to action to get you up off your rears and out into the fields, the forests, let's get it done. Be thoughtful with one another. Let's work together. And let's, as Robert Stack would say, help solve this mystery. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming along to this week's event. Remember, if by chance you get an odd feeling and something doesn't seem right, don't be alarmed by it. It's just the supernormal.